Hey, it's Webs here, and it's time to find our path to victory with Choose One Druid, which is a little bit of a twist on Token Druid or Spell Druid, depending on what name you actually want to give it. And to be honest, this deck was actually inspired by me trying to figure out something to do with Druid that wasn't Kazakusan Druid with some of the new cards in the mini set, which made me come to the conclusion of Raid Negotiator and Boomkin, which are both very strong cards. Raid Negotiator is a lot stronger than I initially thought it would be, and another key card in this deck is Pathmaker. The reason why there's actually a limit on how many choose one spells I have in this deck is I try to figure out which choose one spells would have the best advantage gained off of a Pathmaker. So I ended up settling between Feral Rage, which will gain you either armor or more attack, Nourish, so you can actually draw cards or gain more mana depending on if you have Guff out already, and the one that's probably going to be the weirdest choice out of them all, which is Runic Carvings. So originally I had wanted to use Glowfly Swarm in this place instead, but for some weird reason when I was testing, I always had the notoriously horrible luck where it was at the bottom of the deck, and by the time that I drew into the Glowfly Swarms, I would only get one fly out of each. And then I realized something. The difference between these two choices on this card is actually not really that big. And if you can use Runic Carvings, as seen in this clip behind, earlier in the game, you can actually just use them as ways to actually bait out some of your opponent's removal tools, as seen here. And then you can follow up later in the game with a Pathmaker that actually has the duplicated effect, as this is another way to generate a bunch more minions, and it really is 11-12 worth of stats on a 3 cost minion, which is actually pretty decent, and not a lot of decks can actually deal with it. And by the time you actually combo it out with a Pathmaker, you're probably going to have enough mana where the 2 Overload crystals won't even matter if you didn't really use the Runic Carvings as a way to remove something from your opponent's board. Even if it is 1 mana more than Glowfly Swarm, I think this is honestly the perfect deck for a card like this that hasn't seen much play overall. For the Mulligan guide of this deck, it's actually kind of simple to understand. Guess the Weight and Moonlight Guidance are cards that you're always going to want to keep in your opening hand. Pride Seeker is also a really good card for turn 3, as this will allow you to discount some of the higher cost choose one cards in your deck, and is a really good card. Raid Negotiator is always a good card to keep in your opening hand if you know you're going to be in a slower matchup, but if you're going to be in a minion based matchup, Lunar Eclipse should have priority over the Raid Negotiator. And finally, the last card I would consider keeping in my opening hand is Guff, and if you do keep Guff in your opening hand, Lightning Bloom is also a really good target to keep in your opening hand, as these will allow you to ramp up your mana pretty quickly and have a bunch of draw power, as you're not really worrying too much about chipping away at your opponent with your normal hero power. And being able to actually scale your mana pretty quickly is pretty good, especially because we are running Resizing Pouch in this deck, as it will allow you to have some big answers in late game. And with that being said, let's go find some games. Alright, time for a game against Mage. So this opening hand is showing off the fact that some of the cards in this deck aren't in the deck anymore. We're going to mulligan away everything besides the card that's not in the deck. It doesn't really matter too much in this game if I remember right. I did replace it with Guess the Weight, which is a very similar card and a little bit more consistent for a deck like this. We got both Lightning Blooms and Boomkin in the hand instead from that mulligan, which isn't terrible per se. Boomkin is going to be really necessary in a matchup like this, especially if they have enough burn power so we can actually heal ourselves up. There's Moonlit Guidance. We're going to probably use our hero power and then just go face. Okay, so Pride Seeker's really good for a top deck for turn 3. It allows us to play the Mine if we really felt like it, or we can save it for later. Okay, so they're going to put down a secret. Resizing Pouch does really nothing here. We can use Moonlight Guidance to draw a card if we really feel like it. See what we get. And it's Counterspell. I did not expect anyone to be running Counterspell, which is why I didn't try something else. If I had known it was Counterspell, I would have used the Mine, actually. I'd rather have that one not hit than the Moonlit Guidance. Okay, so they're Secret Mage. Interesting to see. It didn't get really any new support. Now, Nourish to draw 3 is actually really decent here, especially because it means we can refill our hand a bit while not worrying too much. We did get Raid Negotiator and Runic Carvings, which are going to be really good for next turn, depending on which one we want to use. Also depends on if they play a bunch of more minions or not. It also depends if we want to test for something that isn't counter spell here too. Cenarius isn't really necessary. We're going to put the Raid Negotiator down. Going to choose Nourish, which isn't really good right now, but we can use it later. We're going to Hero Power and then go face, checking if it is a counter spell, and it probably is a counter spell at this point, or Dark Moon Fair games, I guess it could be too. Okay, so they are Hero Powers. Hero Power Secret, maybe? We're going to do 4 damage to their minion and then attack into the minion just to get rid of it. We have our Nourish in hand plus a bunch of other cards. We might actually want to use the Lightning Blooms just so we can draw 3 cards without worrying about it. But at the same time, it might be a waste of the Lightning Blooms. Mask of Cthulhu. So they get rid of Boomkin. The chances of them actually doing that is so low. Okay, Lunar Eclipse. That doesn't really help us. We're going to use Lightning Bloom to try to bait out the counter spell, and we do get it. We're going to use the second Lightning Bloom. We're going to draw 3. Pride Seeker's pretty good. More draw power, but not enough anything else to use. We're going to draw into our highest cost card here, which is another Runic Carvings, and then we're going to draw into another high cost card, which is Boomkin, which is pretty decent. This does demonstrate the reason why I ended up cutting the card out of the deck. There's just too many ties when it comes to highest cost card in the deck. The only consistent one would be getting a Cenarius off of it. So it is Ice Barrier. We're going to heal a bit here just because we are getting dangerously low. We're going to draw our lowest cost card in the deck, which should be Resizing Pouch. Then pass the turn back. Runes of the Archmage. Okay, so they're gonna... Man, this is really a bad runes for them. Maybe it's actually not going to be that bad. We have ways to deal with that. I just don't want to deal with it next turn. I think we have to. We're going to get rid of the Pathmaker, which sucks, but can't do much about it. Arbor up. Interesting to see. We're probably going to want to use Solar Eclipse into Lunar Eclipse into a second Lunar Eclipse. And then we're probably going to want to draw 3. Trying to get Guff, which we do, which is actually pretty good. We're going to attack into their minion to get it off the board and then use our hero power to heal ourselves a little bit. Okay, so we're going to play down another secret. Okay, so we gained 2 mana crystals from the Pathmaker, which is actually pretty good just because we can gain the crystals so we can use Resizing Pouch next turn. We're going to grab the Cenarius because that's honestly the most high rolly card that you could choose off of that. And it actually is pretty decent once we have the Guff actually out on the board. They're going to use the Dragonfire Amulet, which is a little bit annoying. So we might need to actually rely on generating a Yogg off of Resizing Pouch. Okay, let's see what we get here. Well, that isn't a Yogg, but it is a really good minion. We can kill one of the whelps, and then we can actually kill most of their board here. Probably should have just attacked with the minion for that, to be honest, but oh well. We're going to go face with our minion. It is another Ice Barrier. Okay, so they kill our minion. Now, good news is we do have enough mana to do a Lunar Eclipse, or Solar Eclipse, plus some other things, but we're going to use our Moonlight Guidance here. We're going to grab Yogg, because why not? Yogg's the most high rolly thing we can. Either he'll betray us here, or he'll just give us a few more cards in our hand. Okay, so we're going to get random spells, which is alright. Okay, we're going to get an entire board. Get a Jailer, which is actually kind of funny for next turn. Getting another Moonlit Guidance. We can actually play that again to get more copies of Feral Rage. So we are going to probably burn a Feral Rage no matter what, so I guess it didn't really matter here. Okay, so Feral Rage gets burned. We're going to play the Jailer because it's going to be really funny when we knock a minion like that out of their hand. We can use Rune Carvings, grabbing the 4 2/2s, then using our first Arbor up, and pass the turn back. We should have honestly probably used the Solar Eclipse there, but oh well, I missed it. Okay, so we should win here with Solar Eclipse plus Cenarius. Actually, we can do full combo if we really feel like it. Give all our minions a bunch of more stats, and then we're going to finish them off with a Arbor up that is doubled. And then we also do have 4 attack on our hero too, but I don't think it's going to be necessary. Or it was. Alrighty, time for a game against Druid. And the only thing we're going to want to keep here is probably... Oh, never mind. Pride Seeker is actually pretty good too. We're going to Mulligan away Pathmaker and Cenarius. Getting Arbor up and Raid Negotiator, our actual starting hand looks actually pretty decent for a deck like this. Arbor up is actually probably the worst card out of the entire bunch. Moonlight Guidance is going to be either a turn 2 play, or we're going to get a little bit greedy and try to just draw into the other card of whatever we get off of it early on. Though I do think we're probably going to wait until at least we play Pride Seeker, because we could in theory hit a choose one card, which would be really funny. Just going to pass the turn back. Okay, Innervate. Interesting to see someone actually still running a card like that in a deck. I actually kind of want to do a Gadgets and Druid deck in the future. Going to Hero Power, then go face. Next turn, we're going to use the Pride Seeker. So it is Ramp Druid. At least I expect it to be Ramp Druid. I'm going to use the Pride Seeker. Pass the turn back. Then the following turn, we should be able to get a Moonlit Guidance off. Okay, so maybe it's Guardian Animal Druid? That's something that I wanted to revisit too. The issue is there haven't been any new beasts for that card to actually want to use. We're going to use Raid Negotiator, get Feral Rage, and go face. Use the Feral Rage, because why not? I'm going to chip away at their HP as much as humanly possible before they get a full combo out. Oh, I guess Hunter could use Guardian Animals too. We're going to attack into our minions, get rid of both of them with the Thrasher. We're just going to use Guff here, I think. Actually, no, we can use the Boomkin to get rid of the Thrasher, just to get rid of it, or to get rid of the draw power. That makes a lot of sense too, because we don't only have one minion on the board. Thrasher doesn't matter too much right now. They're going to get rid of our minion by hero powering and attacking into it with Teacher's Pet. That's actually probably the better play there. Doesn't get rid of either of their minions, so Grey Bog. That's going to be annoying to deal with. Though we might be able to deal with it. Actually, how can we deal with it? We are going to want to get rid of everything on the board at the same time. We can use the Lunar Eclipse there. Getting a... Oh, actually, that could help a lot. We get the Runic Carvings for the next turn. We could probably kill it. Now, this is an interesting little visual bug. I don't think it's actually technically triggered right now, and I don't want to attempt to see what it actually does. Just going to pass it back. I guess we could have actually used Guff and then used our card that we did, but oh well. Trying to remember how I dealt with this board, because I don't remember Grey Bog living long enough to actually hit its death rattle. But there's Boomkin. Oh, maybe that's how I deal with it. I used Boomkin. We're going to draw a card. We're going to use our hero power to gain a mana crystal. We're going to just continue to go face. Probably going to want to use Boomkin to actually heal ourselves a little bit, but at the same time, I'm going to do 4 damage to the Thrasher, which is the riskier play. I'm going to see what we get off of this. Lightning Bloom is actually pretty good here. We can use Feral Rage to gain armor, and then the Pathmaker actually gives us attack next turn. We can use the Lightning Bloom to just draw the second copy of Lightning Bloom, and then use our hero power to gain 1 mana. Pass the turn back. And next turn we should be able to actually use Resizing Pouch to get a really big minion. Yeah, I'm really trying to remember what resizing pouch gave me. Oh, I remember. We're gonna use Lightning Bloom, grabbing the rabbit, and killing all of their minions here. And that was honestly not what I thought resizing pouch actually gave me there. I thought it gave me Yogg and it ate all the minions. Same result, just a funnier result, to be honest. Okay, Cenarius is down. Interesting to see other people actually playing Cenarius. The funny thing is we can play ours next turn. We really feel like it. We're going to draw a card to see what we get. Guess the weight is pretty good, but we're just going to put down Cenarius, I think. And then summon two treants of our own. Okay, so it does look like they're guardian animal. Actually, they used guardian animals earlier. That means there should be a survival of the fittest, which is a little bit worrisome just because we don't have any poisonous or anything else. Though resizing pouch, I guess, could be our answer for something like that if it comes down to it. I also don't want to use Pathmakers with Pharaoh's Rage right now. We're going to kill the Cenarius. We're going to use Guess the Weight. Runic Carvings is exactly what we want to see here. We shouldn't be able to draw into anything else. Though we did get Raid Negotiator, and I misread that. I thought I guessed lower, so my bad there. We're going to use Runic Carvings and then kill their minion, and then use the Arbor up. Then next turn we get a bunch more treants in case they do kill. Okay, and our guardian animals drags out a lone teacher's pet. Strong Man, which costs 0. And it really doesn't look like they updated that deck list at all. Another Thrasher. They're going to be able to kill a few of our minions here, but it's perfectly fine. We have other ways to summon them back out. And depending on how we want to do Order of Operation next turn, we could do Raid Negotiator first. I think we do have enough mana for that. Though getting a resizing pouch is really funny. Now, Onyxia herself is probably the best play. That's a bunch of minions on board that can all be buffed up on the following turn. We're going to use Onyxia, which should allow us to clear out the board, getting rid of all their minions. And then we can use our hero power to draw a card. What would be a really funny top deck is the second Solar Eclipse. I don't think we used both of them yet in this game. It's interesting that the Pathmakers keep spamming the board history. Okay, so that isn't really that necessary. Let's get Sow the Soil. That's actually kind of funny. We're going to play down a Pathmaker, getting 2/2s. Use Arbor up, or we're going to miss it. Nope, we're going to do it now. We can also use the Sow the Soil, but I guess we did miss that one. And then there's the Solar Eclipse. We're going to use Cenarian Ward, try to get something, and that is not something that we want to see. We're going to heal for a little bit next turn. I think 8 damage, actually. There's a Strong Man. No, 12 damage because they can attack into one of our minions too. Oh, 2 Solar Eclipse. Interesting. We're going to use one. Use that to get a bunch more stats on board. Then we're going to gain attack here. I should have honestly probably Solar Eclipse before, but oh well. We can gain armor. We're going to guess more. We get Nourish. We're going to attack and then go face. And I think this should be one off of lethal. Or one off of lethal. If we had done it in a different order, we would have had it. Oh, we can armor up a little bit, I guess. Why not? And I wonder what they're actually thinking here, because given the fact that that deck looks like it hasn't changed a day since whenever Guardian Animals was last really played, I don't think they have any way to actually win. They're going to heal actually for a lot here because of the 2 treants, which kind of sucks, but there's not much we can do about it. And then I think they're just going to give up here because they attacked into one of our minions. Oh, actually no, that actually gives them enough. We're going to do that. And then kill their one dragon and then just go face, which is still perfect lethal. Alright, and now that we're through the games, let's discuss my final thoughts of the deck. So throughout testing, I actually had a 53% win rate, and I played 38 games, which is actually a pretty decent sample size compared to some of the other decks I've done in the past. And this deck actually shocked me of how good it was actually. It took a little bit of getting used to, of trying to figure out which choose one cards to actually include in the deck and which ones not to, and what cards to include at lower cost or what type of draw power to actually include in the deck. But once I got the hang of it, it was actually a pretty decent deck overall, and it could be an easy deck to actually recommend, especially because most of these cards aren't that special to this deck alone. The only card that is a high cost card that you might not actually have in your collection would be Runic Carvings, and this could be replaced with something like Glowfly Swarm that more people would commonly have, though I think this card is a lot better than Glowfly Swarm in this deck and this deck alone. But that really just depends on how you're actually facing the meta, and if you want to try something out like this is a perfect opportunity for a deck that most people aren't actually going to expect out of Druid right now, especially because Kazakusan is floating around and Taunt Druid is floating around. This is just a nice surprise that actually is decent enough to pull away games that most likely wouldn't expect it to ever. With that being said, if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and until next time, bye bye.